Heather beautifully summarizes the profound implications of reincarnational memories. We are far greater than our bodies and our brains. We are immortal spirits that incarnate here in physical form to learn the lessons that Heather highlights. Understanding the reality of reincarnation allows our fear of dying to diminish, because we know that our consciousness survives physical death. You have lived before, you have died in that lifetime, and here you are, back again, in a new and different body. The part of you that continues on after the death of the old body and that then reincarnates as a baby is often called the soul, or the spirit, or the eternal consciousness. The recognition that we are souls or never-ending consciousness is incredibly liberating. We comprehend that we are spiritual beings, not just temporary human beings. We never die, because we are never really born. What, then, is there to fear? If you were not taught the concept of reincarnation when you were young, and I certainly was not taught this and did not believe in it, it does not mean that the concept is incorrect. It is very important to keep an open mind and to continue learning from these events in order to reach your highest potential. Heather was able to do exactly this, and her life has never been the same. Trauma to the throat or neck in a past life may certainly cause vocal problems in the current life, yet there are other possible sources as well. You might have been punished, or even killed, for what you said in a prior lifetime. The words themselves may have been lethal. The consequence in the present life is a powerful need to censor yourself, or even to speak faintly and carefully, in order to prevent a recurrence. Words can kill. When the cause and effect link is uncovered and understood, the symptom usually dissipates. For Heather, a physical problem disappeared. For Giorgio, Myra's client and the subject of the next case, the nature of the symptom was emotional. It does not matter whether the problem manifests in the body or the mind. This paradigm of healing applies to all. Life doesn't have to be hard. One of my sessions with a client was an especially interesting and moving story, not only because of the rich details, the realizations, and the emotional healing, but also because the client spoke in two different languages, neither of which he or I knew. Giorgio found himself in a crowded chamber in an ancient time in the Middle East. He was among a group of people who were having an audience with the king of that land. They were refugees who sought to settle there. Servants stood on both sides of the path that led to the throne. An advisor whispered something to the king. Meanwhile, the crowd anxiously awaited the verdict of what would happen to them. An important decision was to be made. The king rose from his throne, walked down the steps, and said, "Anan Shatlan Temuk." It was not a language the crowd understood, and no one knew what it meant. They were all murmuring nervously amongst each other. Soldiers surrounded them, and the refugees were scared that they would be killed. However, their lives were spared, and they were allowed to settle in the outskirts of the town in a separate, designated area where the land was not fertile. Not much grew there, and they mostly raised animals to survive. It was fertile. Not much grew there, and they mostly raised animals to survive. It was hard living. I asked Giorgio to go into his house and see where he lived. Tears began falling from his eyes as he spoke. I am a girl, a teenage girl. I came home, and my mother is telling me how hard life is. It always is, and it always will be for us. She loves me very much, and she is telling me that life is always hard for us wherever we go. And I believe her. I listen to her and I nod. I agree. We have to work so hard. Is she distressed? I asked. Does she have a heavy burden on her heart? No, she is not distressed. She is just telling me how it is for us. This is our lot in life. The girl, Giorgio in that lifetime, accepted and internalized these statements. She was experiencing it and seeing it with her own eyes, and she never questioned her mother's attitude. Giorgio told me that he was an only child in that life, a girl called Anash. I asked him about Anash's mother. She is my current mother. She is a lot tougher in this life than she is now, but she is the same soul. Anash's father was a tall, balding man with a beard. One day, soldiers came and killed him with spears, right in front of their home. He had stolen something. The mother had known of his crime and must have suspected that this could happen, for when the soldiers arrived, she was very organized and quickly hid her daughter inside the house. The significance of this event is not my father's death but my mother's reaction to it. It confirmed everything that she believed in and has taught me, that life is pain and suffering. That is our lot in life. And that is what my mother still tells me today, Giorgio explained. The girl married a man who lived in the town. Over the years, the younger people from Anash's tribe slowly integrated into the town by marrying and working there. I asked if Anash visited her mother often. Yes, Giorgio said. I bring her oranges. Tears rolled down Giorgio's cheeks, and his voice betrayed the emotions that he felt. Anash was often able to sneak away flat, round pieces of bread and oranges and bring them to her mother. Life was a little better for Anash now. The house where she lived was an actual house, not a tent or a shack. There was still no money, or very little, but Anash's husband was a miller, which gave them stable access to food. He was also Jewish, and even though he too was part of a minority group, Jews were more integrated in the society than Anash's tribe. Giorgio, as Anash, began speaking in another language and said, "There are all these Hebrew words I know now." The next important moment in Anash's life was the death of her mother. The next important moment in Anash's life was the death of her mother. My mother is old. She is old and sick. I am touching her face. She is dying. I am saying that I love her. She is weak. She is bony. I was very close with her. How do you feel? I asked. Giorgio said, I feel very, very upset. I just feel like she was right, that life is so hard. In that lifetime as Anash, Giorgio needed to learn that the perception of life being a struggle was only an assumption, only one way at looking at life, only a belief. In his present reincarnation, he continued to believe this. But life is not all pain and suffering. Changes happen in ways one could never predict, things happen in ways one could never expect. And this is a very important lesson for both Giorgio and his mother. She continued to truly and deeply believe that life was a struggle, and consequently every situation in her life confirmed that perception. Life is full of potential. Miracles do happen, and they both needed to know that. In his present life, Giorgio grew up hearing from his mother the very same thing she taught him when he was previously known as Anash. Giorgio carried the same attitude in him and, when describing the difficulties he had encountered before the regression, he spoke of his life as something that needed to be constantly fought and survived. This attitude, that life is a battlefield, had spilled over into every corner of his life, his career, his finances, his relationships, and even his creative expression as an artist. After our session, Giorgio chose to dissociate from the belief of life as a struggle. He realized that the circumstances that created the belief in Anash's life do not exist in his life as Giorgio, and that he is now a different person. There was no need to be negative or to worry that things were out of his control. He understood that he had the power to choose, and that he did not need to perceive the world through his mother's eyes. The choice was made to be grateful for everything good that he had been given, instead of ignoring it and focusing on what was wrong. Giorgio decided to see life and to live life as a marvelous unfolding of possibilities and blessings. It has been more than a year now since our regression. From speaking with Giorgio, I see that the shift in him is permanent. The understanding that our session brought him has freed him from the need to recreate constant struggle in his life. He now knows that life is full of potential and that miracles do happen. Mira Kelly. In the introduction to this chapter, I mentioned that what we encounter as adults may confirm or contradict the untested viewpoints and attitudes that perhaps we were taught as children and that we may have swallowed undigested and unexamined. Giorgio's account provides an excellent example of how these early beliefs and assumptions may be distorted or even false. New understandings may seem odd or strange at first because they are unfamiliar, but with time and patience, truth prevails. Mira expertly guided Giorgio to a higher level of awareness. His life became much more fulfilling and joyful as a result. Giorgio and his mother, in lifetimes both present and past, believed life to be hard. They are not alone. Over the years, many readers and workshop participants have asked me why we are here in this difficult physical dimension at all. Why don't we just stay on the other side, in the heavenly dimensions, and learn there, where we do not have all the burden, all the pain, of physical existence? This is a complicated question, because it implies a much higher spiritual perspective. It is like trying to know the mind of God. My answer is incomplete, but it has helped some people. I liken physical existence to the first day of kindergarten, when we had to leave the familiarity and comforts of home to go to school and to begin that stressful trek through the various grades and classrooms. A kindergarten student might object, saying, "Why do I need this? Why can't I just stay at home and learn there? Who needs school anyway? I was perfectly happy to be in my home. I don't want to be here." But the young child lacks the perspective to appreciate the purpose and value of school, to get an education, learn many subjects, prepare for a career, function in society, earn a living, interact with peers, and so on. The child does not realize that home will change, that parents will grow older and retire or move. Everything changes. We are like the kindergarten student. We don't completely understand why we are here in this physical school on earth, but nevertheless the reality is that we are indeed here, whatever the reasons may be. And we have to make the best of it, learning our spiritual lessons and then, just like a young student going home after a long day of school, ultimately returning to our own true home. Soulmate, this is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.